I just want to see my balance, she said quietly, sliding her worn debit card across the polished marble counter. The bank lobby gleamed like a cathedral built for money. Sunlight streamed through towering glass windows, scattering across chrome fixtures and marble floors so clean they reflected the chandeliers above. Every sound carried. The soft click of heels, the muted hum of private conversations, the discreet ring of a distant phone. She stood out, not because she was messy, not because she looked lost, but because she looked ordinary. Her coat was neatly pressed but years old. The leather of her handbag had softened with time. No designer logos, no flashing jewelry, just a thin silver ring and steady hands folded patiently on the counter. Behind her, a man cleared his throat with theatrical impatience. He didn't belong to the background. He commanded it. The millionaire was well known in the city, a regular feature in business magazines, photographed at galas and charity auctions. His tailored navy suit fit him like armor. His cufflinks caught the light. Even the faint scent of his cologne suggested power and expense. He glanced at his watch, a limited edition that most people only saw behind museum glass. Some of us have actual business to attend to, he muttered loudly, making sure others heard. A couple nearby exchanged knowing looks. The air shifted slightly, attention tilting toward the woman at the counter. The teller, a young woman with careful posture and kind eyes, offered a polite smile. How can I help you today, ma'am? I just want to see my balance, she repeated, her voice calm, almost gentle. The millionaire gave a short laugh. That's what the ATM is for. She didn't respond. The teller began typing. The rhythmic clicking of keys sounded louder than it should have. The millionaire leaned slightly to the side, trying to glimpse the screen. Let me guess, he continued casually. You're hoping something unexpected appeared overnight. A faint ripple of restrained laughter came from somewhere in the lobby. Still, she said nothing. She simply waited. The teller's fingers paused mid-type. Her expression changed, barely. A flicker in her eyes. A subtle tightening of her lips. She blinked once, then leaned closer to the monitor. The millionaire noticed. Is there a problem? He asked, curiosity sharpening his tone. No, sir, the teller replied carefully. She reached for the printer. The machine whirred to life, breaking the tension with its mechanical hum. The paper slid out slowly, inch by inch, as though it understood the weight of what it carried. The millionaire smiled again, amused. Go on, he said lightly. Tell us. I could use a laugh today. The teller tore the receipt free but didn't immediately hand it over. For a fraction of a second, her professional composure slipped. Her eyes widened. Then she straightened, holding the printed slip with both hands, not casually, but almost respectfully. She passed it across the counter. The woman took it without urgency. Behind her, the millionaire shifted impatiently, and then, unable to resist, leaned forward just enough to see the screen still glowing with the account summary. His amusement froze. The laughter died in his throat. Because the number staring back at him did not belong to someone in a worn coat. And for the first time that morning, the loudest man in the room had nothing to say. There must be some mistake, the millionaire said, his voice no longer amused but sharp, almost brittle. The teller kept her composure, though a faint flush had risen to her cheeks. There is no mistake, sir, she replied evenly. The account details are correct. The woman didn't react to either of them. She studied the receipt slowly, her eyes moving across the line of digits as though confirming a quiet promise. No widened eyes, no gasp, no triumphant smile, just calm recognition. The millionaire stepped closer, abandoning any pretense of discretion. From his angle, he could see part of the computer monitor still glowing with the account summary. The balance wasn't just large. It was staggering. More than his liquid holdings in that particular bank. More than many of the city's public companies reported in quarterly revenue. The zeros stretched across the screen like a challenge. His mind raced. Inheritance. Hidden marriage. Lottery. No. People who won lotteries didn't dress like that. They wore excitement on their sleeves. They radiated it. She radiated nothing. That unsettled him most of all. You're telling me, he said slowly, eyes still fixed on the number, that this account belongs to her. Yes, sir, the teller answered. It does. A nearby customer pretended not to listen, though his newspaper had stopped turning pages. The woman folded the receipt with precise care and slipped it into her modest handbag. The movement was unhurried, almost ritualistic, as though this were just another errand on an ordinary day. "How?" the millionaire demanded. She turned to him then. Not defensively, not smugly. Just curious. "How what? How does someone like you," he gestured vaguely toward her coat, her shoes, her simple appearance, "have that kind of balance?" Her gaze dropped briefly to his polished shoes, then returned to his face. "Someone like me," she repeated softly. He hesitated, suddenly aware of how his words sounded, but too proud to retract them. "You don't exactly look like," he searched for the right word. "Capital." The teller's fingers hovered awkwardly over her keyboard. The woman's expression didn't harden. If anything, it softened, the way one might look at a child who has just said something revealing. "I started investing when I was 22, she said. "Small amounts. Every month. Even when it felt insignificant." The millionaire blinked. That wasn't the answer he expected. "In what?" he asked skeptically. "Energy infrastructure before it was fashionable. Agricultural tech before it was trending. Index funds when people said they were boring." She tilted her head slightly. "Boring compounds." He swallowed. Compound interest. He knew the mathematics intimately. He had used it, leveraged it, multiplied it through risk. But he had also chased headlines, rapid expansions, high-profile acquisitions. Her wealth hadn't grown loudly. It had grown patiently. "You're telling me you built that?" He nodded toward the counter, "without anyone knowing?" She gave the smallest smile. Why would they need to? Silence thickened between them. He thought of his interviews, his press releases, the carefully curated images of success. The world knew his net worth down to the last speculative estimate. No one knew hers. "And you just walk around like that?" he asked before he could stop himself. "Like what?" "Like you have nothing." Her answer was immediate. "I have everything I need." The simplicity of it landed heavier than the number on the screen. For the first time in years, the millionaire felt a crack in his certainty, not about money, but about what it was supposed to look like. Behind them, the printer finally fell silent, and the number, though no longer visible, lingered in the air between them, undeniable, immovable, humbling. Outside, the wind tugged at fallen leaves, spinning them across the wide stone steps of the bank. The city hummed with its usual chaos, car horns, distant construction, the murmur of passers-by, but in that small space around them, time seemed to stretch. The millionaire followed her at a careful distance, unsure whether he was chasing her story, or being silently pulled into a lesson he hadn't realized he needed. "I didn't mean," he began, then stopped, the words sticking in his throat. He was unaccustomed to admitting error, especially not to someone he had assumed to be naive. She waited, her hands tucked casually into her coat pockets, her posture relaxed. She didn't prod. She didn't mock. She simply existed in that quiet space, letting the wind play with a few loose strands of her hair. "I misjudged you," he said finally, the words sounding foreign even as they left his mouth. "Yes," she replied simply, without bitterness, without triumph. He studied her, her modest coat, her plain shoes, the faint crease of determination across her forehead. There was no arrogance in her demeanor, yet every step she took was measured, deliberate. "Calm. You built everything from nothing," he said defensively. "I know what struggle looks like." She tilted her head slightly, watching him with the patience of someone who has seen too many people mistake noise for knowledge. "Do you?" she asked quietly, almost rhetorically. He frowned, unsure how to answer. "Struggle isn't always loud," she continued. "Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's choosing not to show what you have. Sometimes it's letting people underestimate you so you can build without interference." Her words hit harder than any insult could. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb with a quiet hiss, doors opening to admit the millionaire into his carefully constructed world. No car waited for her. No driver. No entourage. "You could live differently," he said, gesturing vaguely at her modest appearance. "You could enjoy the rewards without." "Without what?" she interrupted gently. "Without the quiet. Without the freedom to make mistakes without everyone watching." He hesitated, sensing the truth behind her words. "I live differently," she said simply, almost smiling now. "That's why the balance looks the way it does." He blinked, trying to reconcile the ordinary appearance with the extraordinary truth. He thought about his penthouses, his yachts, his headlines, his endless acquisitions. Always chasing the next number. Always proving something to someone. She, on the other hand, had all she needed, in silence, in patience, in foresight. How? He asked finally, almost whispering. How do you do it? She smiled faintly, a gesture that carried both warmth and wisdom. While others were trying to look rich, I was trying to become secure. The words struck deeper than he expected. He glanced at the luxury car, the waiting driver, the city sprawled behind him. And then at her, calm, composed, unhurried. For the first time that day, he felt small. Not for lack of wealth. Not for lack of achievement. But for the realization that all his noise, all his display, all his relentless pursuit of attention, could never give him what she had quietly built: certainty, freedom, and peace. The car door closed with a soft click. He started to rise, to enter his world of flashing lights and endless appointments, but something held him, the thought of her words, echoing softly in the wind. While others were trying to look rich, I was trying to become secure. And he understood, in that moment, that wealth could exist in two forms, one seen, one unseen. One loud, one quiet, and that the quiet one often carried more power than all the noise in the city combined. That evening, the millionaire sat alone in his office, the city lights bleeding through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The room smelled faintly of polished wood and old leather, the quiet punctuated only by the soft hum of his computer and the occasional distant siren. He opened his bank portal, expecting the familiar surge of satisfaction that came from seeing numbers climb ever higher. His balance blinked at him on the screen, more than many nations' budgets, more than entire industries produced in a fiscal quarter. But tonight, the numbers felt hollow, distant, almost mocking. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled, staring at the screen like it might suddenly reveal a secret he had overlooked. He replayed the afternoon in his mind. The simple words at the counter, the calm confidence in her posture, the way she folded the receipt without haste, the quiet certainty in her eyes. His empire had been built on noise, bold deals, flashy acquisitions, headline-grabbing investments. Everywhere he looked, people measured success in terms of attention, spectacle, influence. And yet, here she was, unknown, unadvertised, unnoticed by the world, yet richer in ways he had never considered. He opened his own investment dashboard, scrolling through aggressive positions, leveraged risks, and high-profile acquisitions. Pages of numbers, charts, and alerts flickered across his screen. Every move had been calculated, every risk carefully weighed. But tonight, it all seemed empty. When had he last checked his balance just to feel secure, rather than to brag, to prove, to measure against others? He couldn't remember. He leaned forward, opening a new tab. Long-term foundations, charitable trusts, sustainable investments. Not for publicity, not for headlines, not to be seen as impressive. Just for meaning. Just for quiet growth that would survive beyond his own lifespan. Across town, she sat at a small kitchen table in a modest apartment. The warm glow of a single lamp illuminated her face. She poured herself a cup of tea, savoring the quiet moment. She unfolded the receipt one more time, not to admire it, not to flaunt it, but to confirm her plans. The balance wasn't just a number, it was a tool, a shield, and a key. She had spent years quietly building it, and now it would serve more than herself. Tomorrow, she would move a portion into a scholarship fund she had been quietly establishing, supporting young women who dreamed big but were overlooked. She smiled faintly, not because of the zeros, but because she was the author of her own story, and no one else could rewrite it. Back in his office, the millionaire sat in silence, the city alive beneath him, the glow of screens reflecting in his eyes. He had everything he thought he wanted: wealth, recognition, influence. But the afternoon had taught him something his numbers never could. The loudest people in the room were rarely the wealthiest. The richest balance wasn't always the one on the screen. Sometimes, it was measured in patience, discretion, and quiet confidence, the kind of wealth that no one saw coming. For the first time in years, he closed the financial reports, shut off the notifications, and simply sat. Not to count his money. Not to plan his next acquisition. But to reflect, to reconsider, to imagine a different kind of success. And somewhere across the city, she sipped her tea, the quietest millionaire of all, unaware that she had just changed his world.